I'd like to introduce our very first special guest, Barry Asin. He is one of the foremost experts in the staffing community with more than 20 years of experience. Currently, he's the president of Staffing Industry Analysts, the leading independent research firm in our space. He's the co-author of the book, Breaking Through Leadership Disciplines from Top Performing Staffing Agencies. And today, he's going to share the findings from his book and what truly sets apart top performing staffing agencies from the rest.
Hi, everyone. At Staffing Industry Analysts, we spend a lot of time thinking about the changes and the developments in the staffing industry. One of the questions that's been most on my mind is, why do so few staffing firms make it to the top of the industry? There are 19,000 staffing firms in the United States. We track every year the largest staffing firms in the industry. Only 140 and latest 150 or so make it to over 100 million. The vast majority of staffing firms are under 5 million in revenue. What's different about those that grow? I've been thinking about that for many years, and I want to share with you some of the thoughts that we've had towards that end. So the first thing is to know that the companies, not only is it about companies that have grown to be the top, but it's also companies like Allegis and companies like Apex and Insight Global who have a similar model to those large companies. And Allegis is a great story, and it's a company that is over 10 billion in revenue right now, the market leader in the United States. Apex and Insight are companies that have followed a very similar model, and they've far outgrown the industry over the past decade or so. So what's different about those sorts of firms? And that's what led me, along with my colleague Mike Cleland, to take a detailed look at some of the companies that have grown from that journey of 0 to over 100 million. And we decided to do some in-depth interviews with those firms and find out what is it about those organizations that have gone from startup to the top 2% of the industry. We studied companies that are on our fastest growing staffing firm list and decided to write the book about them. My short summary is that it's the skills of the leader and the leadership team that makes the difference. And so let me talk now a little bit more about how those leadership teams transform those companies over time. First off, it's important to know that growth comes in predictable stages. Growth for staffing businesses is not always up. But if you think about leadership maturity over time, it starts with companies that are often, at the very beginning, owner-operator dependent. And this is often a lifestyle business for the owner-operator. And the growth is all about their bandwidth and their ability of the leader. Organizations then, if they're able to grow to independent operation, where they have an operation that can function without the leader present all the time. Or next stage would be organic scale, where they're able to replicate the operation, typically in multiple markets or geographies. And finally, companies get to, as they grow, strategic expansion, the ability to add whole new business lines to their operation. So those are the stages of growth. For the vast majority of firms, they never make it beyond that owner-operator dependent stage. And you've got to grow the skills and the capabilities of the organization over time. So what's different about those firms who were able to break through those barriers to growth and move ahead of the pack? We saw in the companies that we looked at 5 key disciplines among the leaders in that who were able to grow. Those were the disciplines of commitment and commitment to growth, direction, which is really about strategy, culture, and particularly high performance culture, talent development, growing the internal talent of the organization, and execution. So let's talk first about the discipline of commitment. So this discipline is really the most personal discipline of all. And it starts at the top with the leader, the CEO, or the top couple of people in the organization. It might go without saying, but they need to want to grow the business and be willing to take the risks and the sacrifices to enable that growth. Staffing firms don't just grow on their own. And that commitment shows up in things like really practical things, like being willing to reinvest in the business, to make that decision as an owner-operator. Are you going to have that vacation home, or are you going to invest in the business? Are you going to hire more recruiters? And it also often means doing the difficult things that need to be done for the growth of the business. Are you about providing a place for your friends and relatives to work, or are you about making sure you've got the best possible talent? So that commitment is easy to say and hard to do. Companies, they don't grow by accident. And as they grow, and it gets harder for the leader to see every day all the people in the organization, it becomes increasingly important to have a really clear purpose to inspire others and give them a reason to come and do their job every day. So that's the discipline of commitment. A critical first step. Do you want to grow? The next thing is to pick the strategy that you need. And that's what direction is all about. Do you have a winning strategy and the resources to execute it? What customers are you going to serve, and how are you going to win with those customers? At SIA, we've done lots of research in this area and know a lot about the different markets that are out there. It's no surprise that many of our fastest growing staffing firms, the ones that have grown over the last decade or two, have been in places like IT and healthcare. Those have been good strategic choices over the past decade. They're not the only choices to achieve growth, but that makes it easier in some ways. Now, strategy is as much about what you say yes to as what you say no to. And so picking a good strategy will make your job easier as a leader of a staffing business as you look to break through to the next stage. Now, the next discipline that we found across the board among the companies that we studied was the discipline of culture. Peter Drucker is rumored to have said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. What is culture? It's the unwritten rules and the self-reinforcing behaviors of an organization. You can often tell a culture by what happens when the boss isn't there. What do the leaders of the organization and the next level down permeate through the organization? Now, every organization has a culture. The question is your culture by design or by default? And is it a high-performance culture? The Department of Motor Vehicles has a culture. Is that the culture you want in your staffing firm? We've seen lots of examples of that. Folks like Jay Cohen at Signature Consultants with a great culture of accountability. Do what you say you're going to do. Or Cindy Paskey at Strategic Staffing Solutions. They're all green all the time with a strong culture of doing well by doing good and giving back. And importantly, culture is about deeds versus words. What you say is great, but people in your organization will take signals from who you hire, who you fire, who you promote. And almost to a one, these organizations that we studied have stories to tell about high performers who delivered lots of dollars to the bottom line, but were poisonous to the culture. Those people who were distracting from the culture, they weren't able to break through to the next level of growth till they moved those people out and were able to unleash the potential of the entire organization. So culture is key to growing a staffing firm and breaking through because it drives through the whole organization and allows you to leverage the vision of the leadership down throughout the business. Next up, and perhaps just as critical as culture, is talent development. How do you grow an organization? You've got to grow the capabilities of the next level of leaders and the leadership of the leaders below that. Companies like Allegis and others like that are perhaps most known for this discipline of hiring people right out of school, of training and developing them, of raising them up through the industry and promoting from within. If you talk to the folks at the top of Allegis, they'll say we're more of a leadership development organization than we are a staffing firm. So this whole idea really ties into the commitment and the sacrifice. My friend Mark Eldridge at Alcu probably said it best. When he thought about growing his business over time, the mantra was, when is the right time to hire? The right time to hire is when you've found the right person. That for him was regardless of budgets, current situation, but it was finding the very best talent to grow the business. That sort of focus on talent development is key to organizations that want to grow and have a sustainable business. Now, finally, we come to the discipline of execution. This is the first place people go when they come and ask us questions. How do we grow? What comp plans should we have? What sort of processes should we have? All of that is important, but it's really critical that you've got these other disciplines in place. Having great processes and policies and tools, which is what execution is all about, if it's not on a foundation of a commitment to growth, a clear strategy, high-performing culture, and great talent development, it's not going to get you to the next level. So that's a little tidbit of what we found in our research and we're able to talk about in our book. So in summary, what's different about staffing firms who break through in growth? It's the skills and the discipline of the leadership team. Simple to say, really hard to do, and a big challenge for organizations over time.